Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman was found dead alongside his wife, who was a classical pianist, as well as their dog in their Santa Fe, New Mexico home.
Questions remain about the final days of the 95-year-old legend and his 65-year-old wife, Betsy Arakawa, at their home in Santa Fe. Investigators established that Hackman died on February 17, 9 days before his body was discovered.
The silence of Santa Fe's desert landscape was shattered when the unthinkable happened at the secluded mansion of a Hollywood legend. Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman, the man who had captivated audiences for decades, lay dead alongside his wife, Betsy Arakawa, in their New Mexico home. But this wasn't a fresh scene. Their bodies had been there for 9 agonizing days before discovery. 9 days where the 95-year-old icon and his 63-year-old wife remained undisturbed as the world continued, oblivious to the tragedy unfolding behind closed doors. What happened in those final moments? And why did it take so long for anyone to notice that one of Hollywood's greatest stars had fallen?
Following breaking news developments in the deaths of actor Gene Hackman and his wife, with investigators now calling those deaths suspicious.
The clock had stopped for Gene Hackman on February 17th, but the mystery was just beginning. The morning started like any other for 2 maintenance workers making their routine rounds. Little did they know they were about to step into a scene, straight from the darkest thriller Hackman never starred in. The front door of the mansion stood eerily ajar, the first red flag that something was terribly wrong. As they approached, 2 frantic dogs bolted past them, somehow surviving what their owners could not. Inside, the workers' discovery turned grimmer with each step. Another dog, trapped and deceased in its crate, and then the bodies. The maintenance men weren't prepared for what they found. No one could be. In an instant, these ordinary workers became unwitting detectives in a mystery that would soon grip the nation. What force had torn through this home, leaving doors open and lives extinguished? What horror had unfolded in the final hours of a legend's life? Time had transformed the beloved faces that once graced movie posters and red carpets into something unrecognizable.
We're learning incredible new details this hour about the circumstances surrounding his death. His front door open, scattered pills on the bathroom countertop, 1 dog dead in the closet, 2 still alive on the property.
The effects of decomposition had set in, with the bodies showing signs of mummification, particularly in their extremities, dried by the arid New Mexico air. Medical examiners would later note the leathery texture of skin, a macabre testament to how long the couple had lain undiscovered. In life, Hackman commanded the screen with a powerful presence. In death, he had become a grim puzzle for investigators to solve. How could someone who had been in the spotlight for decades vanish so completely from the world's awareness? The bodies told a chilling story of isolation and neglect, raising disturbing questions about celebrity, aging, and our collective responsibility to one another.
She was found decomposing with bloating on her face and mummification in her hands and feet.
As forensic teams documented the scene, they couldn't help but wonder what final scene had played out between these walls. The positioning of the bodies painted a haunting picture of desperation and confusion. Betsy Arakawa's final moments appeared marked by distress, found splayed on the bathroom floor surrounded by scattered pills, an open prescription bottle nearby like an ominous prop. Had she been seeking relief from something? Or was this evidence of something more intentional? Across the house, in a cruel separation, Hackman had fallen in a small room by the back door, his cane and sunglasses nearby, suggesting he may have been attempting to leave, perhaps for help. The scene resembled a tragic game of connect the dots, with investigators struggling to link the final movements of husband and wife. Were they victims of separate medical emergencies, or was one desperately trying to save the other? The spatial distance between them and death added another heartbreaking layer to an already devastating discovery: carbon monoxide poisoning. The words hung in the air as investigators grasped for an explanation that might make sense of the senseless. The silent killer seemed a plausible culprit that could explain the simultaneous deaths without violence. Teams from the New Mexico Gas Company descended on the property, equipment in hand, meticulously checking every pipe, every connection, every possible source of a deadly leak. Hours turned into days as they worked, but the answer, when it finally came, only deepened the mystery. No leaks, no carbon monoxide, no simple explanation. With this theory eliminated, investigators found themselves back at square one, now facing an even more troubling scenario. What invisible force had claimed 2 lives so completely that it left no trace? The classification of the deaths shifted, ominously from natural causes to suspicious circumstances, and the investigation took a darker turn. In the shadow of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, a different kind of suspense was unfolding, not in one of Hackman's thriller films, but in real life. Investigators moved methodically through the home, noting the absence of forced entry, the lack of defensive wounds, the missing signs of struggle. The evidence they weren't finding became as important as what they did discover. No suicide notes, no signs of violence, no obvious explanation for why a door would be left open in a home where 2 people had died. FBI specialists painstakingly documented every detail, knowing that the smallest clue might crack the case wide open. Security footage was reviewed, neighbors questioned, phone records examined. The questions multiplied. Was an unknown visitor the last to see them alive? Had someone entered after their deaths? Or was this simply a tragic confluence of natural circumstances, magnified by isolation and time? The investigation intensified as the world waited for answers. The Hackmans had become ghosts long before their deaths. Their deliberately reclusive lifestyle, once a sanctuary from Hollywood's relentless spotlight, now complicated every aspect of the investigation. "We're doing a reverse timeline," Santa Fe County Sheriff Adan Mendoza explained to the press, frustration evident in his voice. Unlike typical cases where investigators trace events leading up to a death, authorities were forced to work backward, from decomposed bodies, piecing together days, perhaps weeks of mystery. When was the last time anyone had spoken to them? Who had last seen them alive? The couple's self-imposed isolation had created a void of information that investigators struggled to fill. Phone records showed minimal contact. Neighbors reported rarely seeing them. Even family members admitted communication had been sparse. The privacy Hackman had so fiercely protected in life had become an investigative labyrinth in death, with each dead end adding to the growing sense that the full truth might never be known. He was practicing Pilates and yoga regularly, insisted Hackman's daughter Leslie, her voice breaking as she spoke to reporters. The family's disbelief echoed across headlines nationwide. This wasn't a frail, sickly man awaiting death. By all accounts, Hackman had been defying his 95 years with remarkable vigor. His daughter Elizabeth echoed these sentiments, emphasizing that despite his age, there had been no warning signs, no recent surgeries, no terminal diagnoses. It was Betsy's death at 63 that particularly haunted the family, decades too young for natural causes. The couple's relationship had been a source of strength and health, with Betsy credited for Hackman's longevity and well-being. She was always looking out for him, Leslie recalled through tears. The devastation in the family's statements added another layer of tragedy to the unfolding mystery. If not health issues, then what unseen force had claimed 2 seemingly vital lives? The contradiction between their reported health and their grim end only deepened the chilling enigma. The potential answers to what happened in the Hackman home range from the mundane to the sinister, each theory carrying its own disturbing implications. Could a mutual decision have been made to end their lives together, disrupted when one became separated from the other in their final moments? Perhaps a medical emergency befell one spouse, leading to a cascade of tragic events as the other attempted intervention. Some whisper about the possibility of foul play, though the absence of evidence makes this theory increasingly unlikely. Toxicology tests now hold the key, with laboratories rushing to analyze blood samples for any substances that might explain the synchronized deaths. Meanwhile, investigators continue their painstaking work, combing through medical records, interviewing pharmacists, consulting specialists. The passage of time works against them, crucial evidence deteriorating with each passing day. What began as a shocking discovery has evolved into one of Hollywood's most baffling mysteries, with each potential explanation raising as many questions as it answers. The final curtain has fallen on Gene Hackman's remarkable life, but his legacy continues to shine through the dark cloud of his mysterious passing. No actor was more skilled than Gene, declared Clint Eastwood, his voice heavy with emotion as he remembered his friend and Unforgiven co-star. His performances were always authentic and powerful, never anything less than perfect. From his Oscar-winning turn as Popeye Doyle in The French Connection to his unforgettable roles in Unforgiven, The Conversation, and countless other classics, spanning over 80 films, Hackman's impact on cinema remains indelible. As tributes pour in from Hollywood legends and ordinary fans alike, the investigation into his death continues in the background, a strange juxtaposition of celebration and sorrow. The man who brought so many characters to life now finds himself at the center of a real-life mystery more compelling and heartbreaking than any script he ever performed. Whatever the investigation ultimately reveals, one truth remains untouchable. Gene Hackman's artistic legacy will far outlive the circumstances of his passing.